Well, I think that there's such an amazing amount of change going on in retail. It's important for people to understand and get many perspectives. And my perspective is that there is certainly a future for bricks and mortar, and providing those bricks and mortar retailers are prepared to be omni-channel retailers. And I think everybody needs to understand about the pace of change today.
I think the future for the retail high street is about flexibility. We're at Wembley changing a lot of the way in which tenants or occupiers come into spaces. So I think what's going to work for the future is going to be shorter leases, more flexible terms, and deals that share the risk between both the occupier and the landlord, working together in partnership and collaborating on providing a great concept and a great environment which enhances the place and makes it a destination that you'd want to come and shop. It's not easy being on the high street, but I think it's the conditions are one of change and adaptation, and retail has always adapted, and I think physical retail is definitely here to stay. It will be different with different uses, and we're really excited about the future.
People still seeing digital space and physical space as fundamentally two different things. They're not. The world today is a mesh and an incredible mix of the two coming together. And everyone needs to stop talking about two as two separate entities. And the moment that actually physical people like these guys in the physical world start getting digital R&D into their businesses, they'll be able to adapt and change much quicker.
No, it can't. It's a fundamental, heart of a community, but people have got to understand about the residents, the visitors and workers. And this space has to be curated. It's not about having a shop and saying, well, let it for 15 years, see you later. There's got to be greater involvement from local authorities. But that's got to come through understanding, because I think one of the things that came out today is there is genuinely a lack of understanding, and I talked about wisdom and knowledge about others. Seek to understand before being understood. I think lots of people just come in having read what they've read or their view, and they need to actually look in the mirror first before looking out of the window. If we only manage people, we have no direction, and we do what we've always done, and we'll get what we always got. So leadership is fundamental and critical to any organisation and any place taking it forward. But again, leaders aren't necessarily born, but they need training and they need support. And that is really lacking up and down the country, and indeed in many businesses.
Well, I like to think that I'm an optimistic realist, because there are challenges out there. There are definitely things that have to be addressed in the retail market, and you have to adapt and be flexible enough to recognise what's wrong and try and fix it. And certainly as a business, New River, I think controlling what we control is very important, and that on the asset management side is recognising that, but it's also responding to what you can't control and being on the front foot of that. And I think there's some excellent speakers here today in businesses, Argent and Boxpark particularly, who recognise what they can control and what they can't control, and responding and adapting to be able to be flexible enough to ensure the success of their business.
There's a structural change that's taking place, and landlords and retailers are having to adapt to work together, to collaborate, to share data, so they can move forward, look forward. I think the historic model of having a 15, 20-year lease on a rack rent of a huge piece of real estate like a department store doesn't play to anyone's strengths. I think that is the landlord and the tenant snookering each other. And I think that the move towards flexible leasing is an obvious change. You can then look at the tenant mix, you can look at the operator, you can look at the asset manager, and keep that vibrant and relevant. Relevant was a big theme of today. So I think that's what us all working together as an industry to adapt to change and move forward positively. So if you have landlords, investors and funders working with local authorities and the tenant retailer all together collaboratively, then you can address things like business rates, you can address things like leasehold reform. We talked about the 1954 Act and some of the archaic legislation that we have, and then you can talk about attracting the communities, young and old, from 8 to 80, in whatever the shopping centre experience that you have.
First and foremost, I think that the traditional days in which you had landlords that basically were only concerned about security of tenure and were trying to get traditional retailers into their schemes with fantastic security of tenure, I think those days are numbered. What we try to do is to reduce the barrier to entry for small independents by offering them really flexible leases. And maybe from a financial perspective, it might not look like as solid a proposition as your traditional model, but I think the proof is in the pudding. I think the proof is that we've got a thriving centre, that we're not concerned about security of tenure, because as long as we've got great customers and great tenants waiting to come in, that somebody leaves us, somebody else will fill that space. But more importantly, from a tenant perspective, 90 or 80% of these tenants would not get into your traditional shopping centre because maybe they don't have the financial covenant. We're not obsessed with the financial covenant. We're obsessed with the quality of what they do, the quality of their content. And our thing is about, look, let's put the customer first. They're not concerned about the balance sheet of the customer out there. They're concerned about how good that Bombay burrito is.